Hey there YouTube, Travis here. So today we're going to be hardwiring a dash cam in my 1992 Toyota pickup, which has the 22 RE 4-cylinder engine. So in my case, I already have a dash cam. This is the A119. It's been around for a while. This is the third version of it. It's a mid-range dash cam. It costs about $130. And if you haven't picked a dash cam yet, my biggest advice is to try and find one that has a capacitor instead of a battery. That's just going to be a reliability thing, especially if you live in a place where it gets really hot or really cold. So I've been running this dash cam for the past few months and I've been pretty satisfied with it. For my initial install, I just have it going right into the 12-volt cigarette lighter right here. But this is pretty inconvenient. The camera falls down pretty frequently, putting my club off and on. So now it's time to hardwire it and get a cleaner look. In order to wire this kit up full time, we're going to be using just a very generic dash cam wiring kit. This is the most popular one they sell on Amazon. It's pretty hard to find something like this locally, but if you don't use Amazon, a regular car electronics website should have it. So, quick disclaimer, we're going to be doing a pretty simple hardwire of this. I'm going to wire this so that the camera will only run when the car is on. A lot of dash cams nowadays feature a parking mode, which will turn the camera on and record even when the car is off for things like motion sensors or parking collision detection. This camera does have that feature, but really, we're dealing with a 30-year-old vehicle here. A lot of these cars with the 22 RE are exactly that, 30 years old or even older. I really don't want to be messing with things that are going to be running the battery when the car is off. There's just too many variables. You could certainly wire it to a fuse that is always hot, so always has power. And there are some dash cam wiring kits that will give you two different wires for power plus the ground. And those you would then use an app or some control on the camera to turn the parking mode off or on. In this case, this is a really simple kit. We get a hot wire and a ground wire, and we're going to wire it so that the camera only runs when the car is on. It's important to note, you can buy these wiring kits that have different USB ends. This one is for mini USB. A lot of dash cams use mini USB. It's the older standard. The micro USB would be kind of like the cables that charge an Android phone, but it's the one that's a little bit thicker. And with the Toyota, for the most part, their cigarette lighters, 12-volt accessories, when the car is off, these do not provide power. It's the opposite case with a lot of domestic vehicles. My girlfriend drives a Chrysler PT Cruiser, and that leaves this on even when the key is off. A quick overview of what's in this kit, and this should follow most generic hardwire dash cam kits. They're going to give you all different types of add a fuse adapters, and then of course they'll give you a new fuse for the dash cam itself. I like this because these are all 5 amp fuses. You're really not going to need much more than that to power the dash cam, so it's nice they give you some 5 amp fuses out of the gate. We're dealing with an oldie here, so we're going to be using these regular style fuses, but if you have a newer car, it could use one of these mini fuses here, a trim tool, and then a fuse puller, and then some more wiring. This, as I mentioned, this is a simple hardwire here, so we have a ground, which is going to go to a body ground, and then this is going to go into whatever fuse size, again, the standard one here, to pull some power. And then, of course, this other end will go into your dash cam after it goes through this box to step down the 12 volt. I think this goes down to 5 volt. Yes, 2 amp. Okay, down here by the driver's side kick panel, Toyota was kind. They've given us 2, technically 3 different fuse boxes on this truck. We're going to tap into right here. On the passenger side right here, we have some fuses. Your main EFI fuse is here, and we also have some fuses for our lights here as well. We're not going to be using one of these fuses. We'd have to go through the firewall, and that's just too much of a chore for dash cam wiring. And here's a fun one. The fuse for the blower motor is actually hiding behind the glove box up in the corner over there. So how do we know which fuse to pick? The best advice here is the more boring, the better. You don't want to tap into a fuse that is related to something critical. Here's how you know you're dealing with an old truck. Right there, SIG. So we're going to tap into that 15 amp fuse right there. Again, this truck doesn't have anti-lock brakes, but if it did, you wouldn't want to tap into that fuse. You wouldn't want to tap into your taillight fuse or your stoplight fuse right there. Other general advice, you're going to want to pick a fuse which is the same size fuse as the dash cam or bigger. In this case, the dash cam came with a 5 amp fuse, so it's very easy in this case, but not all kits are the same. And make sure you're holding the panel the right way when you're reading the fuses to make sure you grab the right one. The SIG fuse, the one we're going to pull, it's going to be the bottom middle one. So when the car is off, we have no power here, no power here. Some of these though, let's find one, should have power even in the off position, like this one. This one, for example, does have power. This is for your stop lights, your brake lights, which do have power when the key is in the off position. This would not be an acceptable choice for the dash cam wiring, even if you were wiring for a parking mode enabled dash cam. So we're keyed to on right now, and when we put our tester to the cigarette lighter, we see we have power. Each fuse has a positive and a negative side, which right now, because power is flowing through this fuse, both are lit. But if we pull the fuse, this is our negative, and then this is our positive, because we have power up top. So we're working with our old school standard size fuses. All this mini fuse stuff is way too small. We're going to insert the original fuse to the slot that's closest to the metal prongs. The dash cam fuse is going to sit behind it. Just like that. Well, this is a surprise. This fuse tap from this fuse tap kit does not fit. I put the tap or the fuse for the cigarette lighter back in. This is the one from the radio. And this add a fuse tap is just too thick. So after some Googling around, it's pretty common, it looks more like common on Mazda and Subarus, that the regular fuse tap will not fit. It's just too thick. Consensus seems to be go with the mini fuse that is included of the 4 different fuse taps. But of course, as we pulled, this is still the 7.5 amp radio fuse. I'm probably still going to use the cigarette lighter fuse. I only have regular fuse sizes of that, so it's off to the auto parts store. I'm going to look for an assortment kit of mini fuses now. Another alternative to this would be they sell a little piece of metal, and it would allow you to go around one of the fuse blades and then connect a wire to that. That's not great because with these fuse taps, you're creating a second circuit so that if something is overloaded, it'll pop the fuse. If you do a wire on this, which again, you could do and it would work, you're then putting the original device and the dash cam all through whatever fuse rating that is. I think it's just going to increase your rate of popping the fuse compared. All right, we have our mini fuse assortment. Well, I hate to say it, friends. I think the internet lied to me. These suffer the same problem. They are just too thick to fit in. They're stuck right at the top there. If you can see, they won't even go into the white plastic. Just the black plastic on this, even on the mini fuse, is too thick. Well, I've got 2 options. I can either go to an auto parts store and buy a brand name fuse tap for the ATC regular fuses, or I can bust out the Dremel with a sanding disc and see if we can wear down this plastic. So now we are back with the brand name. straight from AutoZone. All right, we're sitting at about 2.8. Looks like I didn't break through to any metal, or plastic still seems intact. Now we see if this fits. Now for the moment of truth. Does this fit? It does, but you get this cover back on. We are most certainly going to need to put it in the radio spot right there instead of the cigarette spot. Maybe we can force it, but I don't want to be jerking this whole plastic fuse box around. Actually, it sticks in there pretty good. Oh, yes, that is satisfying. Now, is the cover going to fit? Is the next question. Oh, man, that rocks. Next thing we're going to do is feed our wires. So, in order to get this A-pillar off trim right here, I had to use my electric impact gun on the two screws that were holding on the grab handle right here. They were on there tight, and then I was able to pop that off with the trim panel. The lower trim right here is, there's normally a bolt right there. Mine was missing, but a screw here, here, and there's two more hiding on that side, Phillips heads. You can pry the ignition key off with a trim piece or even your bare hands, and then this will come and rest down. And I believe with just this off, we can get the wire from the corner up here all the way down to the fuse box down there. The tricky part is still this headliner. This thing is a tough headliner. It is very close, and I certainly don't want to jam a piece of metal up there at risk of cracking the windshield, so I may choose to just put a piece of tape up here for now, or have this come up behind the visor, which I never use because it's wore out anyway, and it flaps around, so I just keep it in the up position for now till I figure something else out a little more clever. But let's get this wiring in place. I'm going to unplug the USB from here, come from the bottom and push the small USB end up and get us there. Okay, so our wire is tucked behind the A-pillar, and then down here we've got it coming out near the kick panel. So as I mentioned, we have your two wires, your power and your ground. We are going to connect to our red coming up there from the fuse box. Red to red for power, and then your ground has a special type of connector where we're just going to take one of those nice grounding points, jam that in there. That looks like a 10mm socket. So for the final mile delivery from the A-pillar to the headliner, we're actually going to look at the sun visor tab here because there's a screw on the back. So I'm going to back the screw out. We're going to jam the wire under there and kind of crimp the USB cable into this holder, and then that ought to do it. Then we should be done. We'll put the mirror back in place. This little bit hanging down won't be seen. And we finished our wiring down at the kick panel. So before we tuck that away, we'll hide this key on and see if this worked. All right, plugged in, moment of truth, keyed on. And we got nothing. There, it looks like the cigarette lighter and the radio are both on. Those are the two fuses we disturbed. And we have nothing. So I have an idea. The fuse tap holder can only be in one direction because of the way it draws power and the way it passes power through the two accessory fuses. So let's flip this orientation around if we can and see if we get power to our dash cam. Well, not very pretty, but this should work for our testing purposes. So, radio comes on, and no power to the dash cam. Well, this fuse was blown. No continuity through it. Maybe it's because I had it positioned the wrong way. Popped one of my new mini fuses in. It's a 5 amp. Let's just see if this will work. Probably helps if I plug it in, huh? Well, ooh. You might be onto something here. There we go. Okay. I used the zip tie that came with the wires, tucked them up back behind the kick panel there. And then this fuse will fit. If you just pull on the plastic, it will get in there, even with the wire pointed down. Now we just reinstall this little panel. And I am going to call this project done. It's supposed to be 20 minutes, turned out to be all day. That's okay. Hopefully you'll have learned some things along here with me and can apply that when you install your own dash cam. So overall, I think there's minimal wire sticking out here. I think it's pretty clean. A little bit there, a little bit there, down the A-pillar, and that's it. No more long wire hanging down, and I can now use that cigarette lighter for solely charging my phone. Okay there, YouTube. Hopefully you learned some things. I'm guessing I had the fuse tap oriented the wrong direction and popped the accessory fuse for the dash cam. So I flipped it and we seem to be good now. Okay there, YouTube. Until next time.